Go for it.
Okay. Where to start? With the make model? Okay. These are the Culligan CSMs, Culligan side mounts. That's why we give them that name, that acronym. So basically what you have here are the new, latest firmware of the GBE boards. They are smart controller. They actually log data in there. You have your basic information. You give you the remaining capacity in percentage and in gallons from what was programmed in the initial setup. Which I want to say the initial full capacity of gallons is 30,000 gallons, but you get a 5% safety factor. Just give you that little bit of cushion if maybe y'all been running minimum flow rates. It's always nice to have a little bit of safety factor for any reason. It's typically commonly used on a single unit, but we like to put a 5% in there in case also maybe a lack in the brine and doesn't get a full regen, anything like that. So 5% safety factor, and then we get a current flow rate. So you got your flow meter, 3-inch flow meters on each unit, making them all progressive flow. So this is all in the information. It gives you today's usage, 1,392 gallons and counting. An average daily of 1,940. So then that's also what's clever about this. We'll actually start accounting what's basically an average use per day. It'll tell you based on average daily and maybe what is also an interval, a day backup. So maybe one day flow meters aren't acting properly. I like to set in a backup day timer where it'll have an interval. So whatever comes first, the gallon zero out or the day of the interval, it's going to regen at that point in time. Yeah. The day interval, I believe I think it's going to regen at the time set in there, which is 2 in the morning, pretty standard. Now, these are immediate; they are not delayed. But if I'm correct, on the day timer, it will still revert to the programmed time of regen. So, which is 2 in the morning. Didn't write the interval in there. Oh, 30-day interval. So I put something in there to at least get it going. So 30-day interval. And then you have total water used. And I like to go from left to right. This is the master, slave 1, slave 2. And then I got them sharpied up there. So I think when it comes to total water used, master's always going to have that in there. So another thing about this, we go to diagnostics. This is what makes this the board so spectacular. You go to your advanced stats, and you have flow stats and regen stats. Regen stats will tell you you've had a total regen, 7 total regens. Regens in the last 14 days have been 0. I assume probably minimum flow at this. Are y'all? Yeah, not fully occupied. Days since last regen, 15. So it tells you how many days since. See, and that is what makes this so easy. It makes the service call go faster. Because all a technician has to do is come out, they collect this data, document it, and then they can easily assess which of the 3 is causing the other 2, trouble, and where the underlying problem is going to be deriving from. So last regen, and then the last regen that tripped it could be interval or flow meter or manual. So I'll show you how to do a manual regen. Tells you the last brine draw minutes, pretty standard. Last refill. Last refill is going to be funny. It's always going to say 0 on these because to operate the refill we use it's back here, the refill solenoid valve, which is controlled through auxiliary output, and this is based on a actual built-in on the cycles program. Yeah, that's the easiest way I can say it. So we don't really rely on the actual refill of the cycle, but control it through the auxiliary output. So whenever you see a 0 on the refill, don't worry about that too much. Standby counts, don't worry about that. Now flow stats, that's where it's also pretty awesome. So that's your totalized flow right there. So that is totalized for each of them, each of the three combined. Current flow rate again, so not doing too much. Flow profile, R1. So you get R1 through 6. So we got 0 on 4, 5, 6. And as you can tell by the flow rate, we're not running too much. So what this is you have a low flow and a high flow. And it's based on, low flow is based on diameter of the tank. And we have a formula for that. In this case, for the 30-inch tank, your low flow rate is going to be 10 gallons a minute. So you program this, tell it it's your low flow is 10, and your high flow, which is just in the spec sheet, of 130. So it's capable, each unit is capable of 130 gallons per minute. And we program that, and this is in minutes, not gallons. That's the unit of measurement. And basically, R1 through 6 would be 130 is anything in R6, so is everything above, all flow rates above 130, above the max. Anything on R1 is below 10 gallons a minute. And the way to find everything in between is going to be subtracting the 2 and dividing by 4. And that gives you the difference between, 10 to 130. It gives you the flow rates between each one. And so we typically like a small number of minutes on the R1. And then we want larger numbers, anything above that, but nothing too, we don't want to be too crazy on the R6, but we know we have 3 to kind of carry the weight, So it's not a big concern. But so with those with that number right there being that you're not fully occupied, yes. And what that'll do, it leads to bleed through. We call it channeling. And what it is because you got to have a certain amount of flow rate to equally press down on that media inside the tank. But when you don't have that minimum flow rate, it'll like an ant farm. It channels. It'll just penetrate the weak point, and then just kind of just go all the way down. And it ain't gonna. It's not. It'll have an exchange for so long, and then you'll start getting just a bleed through of the raw water running back through there. So, pretty confident a building of this size is not going to have that issue once y'all are 100% up and running. So again, that's what's great about that. Now, to explain also, the max flow rate that is set in here is also the trip point for when it runs a minute above that maximum flow rate. It calls for number 2 to come on and join in to carry some of that flow, and that's when you won't have that issue of flow issues at the top floor. And then if it even doubles, triples upon that, it can call for the third one. Yep. So they'll all come together and work to push all that flow wherever y'all call for it. So it looks like a 1-inch CPVC. Yeah.
Backwashes through there?
It is backwashing. So you have a flow control, drain line flow control here. Can't remember there's a formula for that as well, but they kind of give you with the unit. This is, come on now, it's all the way on the other side. I believe. unless that's in there. Regardless, it is a drainline flow control because it will have to, it could only be between 10 to probably 20 gallons a minute. Now, yes, that keeps the media, if you were to lose that, media would. And that has happened from time to time. The flow control washer can. I've seen it. Doesn't happen too often. Wouldn't worry about it too much, but that could flush the media down. But won't worry about that. And I'm pretty confident none of that will be a concern later on. So, another thing to talk about is the salt dosage. We like to run on a minimum salt dosage. Save salt, conserve that. When you look at the cost of water, treated water, and salt is going to be the most costly resource there. So we run at 6 pounds per cubic foot. These are 15 cubic foot each, combined of 45 cubic feet of cation immediate resin. And so we basically use a formula on that as well, based on how much a 6 pound salt dosage treats a single cubic foot. Have that in grains combined, then we use that to determine, what the raw water is, and that's how we establish your total gallons. So we don't just go, well, it's rated at the most of 15 cubic feet. No, you have to base it on the salt you're using, how much we are going to use, and that is based on the film, the refill, and the brine tank. How much water we're going to put in there. And we have a 2 gallon per minute refill washer. We base that on minutes programmed on the refill, which everything I wrote down here is going to be a 15-minute refill, because ideally we want just 2 gallons per cubic foot based on the 6 pound salt dosage. So that was pretty easy to figure out. So each one's going to refill 15 minutes. Put in 30 gallons of water each refill. So 6 times 15, 90 pound salt dosage. So just a little over 2 bags of salt, 40 pound bag of salt. So 2 bags every region. And based on last, 15 days ago, that ain't too terribly bad. And as long as we get the flow meters working, this will run efficiently. And we will conserve salt and water that way. And ultimately achieving just keeping soft water running in the plumbing and preventing any kind of malfunctions in the. So